All right, I'm talking to Vic from the band Star Collector, and we're doing this for Valley FM 89.5 and Banks Radio Australia in Canberra. How are you, Vic?
I'm great, Isaac. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's bloody freezing here in Canberra today. We're in winter, of course, and they say it's going to snow here maybe today. So, yeah, very, very cold.
Oh, seriously? It's going to snow? I was going to make a joke about that when it's really cold in Australia. It's kind of like a really hot day here. But if it's going to snow there, then I'll take that back.
Yeah, it's around about 6 or 7 degrees at the moment and overcast, horrible. It's just one of those horrible Canberra winter days. I live in one of the coldest parts of Australia, unfortunately, so I've been here all my life. It's maybe due for a change.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you've said you visited here when we were talking off air, and I live in the warmest part of a cold country, so we're kind of opposite bookends.
Yeah, you're very lucky to live in Vancouver. What a beautiful city it is, and what a lovely place to live. I could easily live there.
Oh, well, you're welcome anytime. You know, us Canadians, we're pretty welcoming, so
yeah,
anytime.
That's right. And hopefully this virus, we can get on top of this virus, and you're not in lockdown at the moment, are you?
No, they just recently lifted a lot of the lockdown that we did have.
Yeah.
We were in fairly serious lockdown there for quite some time, but just over the last 2 weeks or so, they started to allow people back into restaurants. And you know, when I follow the news, I know that you're Australia, New Zealand are sort of like the absolute epitome of who dealt with this situation the best, and the rest of us are all kind of scrambling to get to some semblance of where you guys are at. So, from what I see, unless I'm, tell me if I'm wrong here, but
yeah.
You've been living you guys have had concerts and you've been able to, we haven't been able to do any of that stuff for 15 months now.
Yeah, very, very sad. Yeah, we've been good. Where I live in Canberra here, we haven't had a COVID case in probably around 12 months, and there's very, very few cases in Australia. We just had a little bit of an outbreak in a place called Melbourne, but other than that, it's been fantastic. We've been very, very lucky.
Yeah, well, good to be lucky to be good. So obviously you were doing something right from the outset, but things are getting back to normal. Like I said, they started to open up restaurants here, and I'm starting to see, like, we had our first rehearsal last night in months.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hence the slightly gravelly voice.
Yeah,
that you're hearing.
I've always got one of those. I just do too many radio shows. So you're in a band called Star Collector, and you must have been going for a long time, because I was just reading that your latest album, Game Day, that's your fifth album?
It is our fifth album, and we took a bit of a chunk of a break there in the middle.
Yeah.
So we've actually our first album came out in 1999.
Wow.
So we've been together for a long time, and a couple member changes. We had the same drummer for 18 years, and he sort of a little later in life, shall we say, than most people, he had a kid.
Yep.
And it's not terribly affordable here in Vancouver, so he and his wife and their little one moved to a more affordable part of Canada a few years ago. So he had been with us right from the beginning.
Wow.
And luckily, a fellow who we'd been friends with for about 20 years, who was in another band we had done lots of gigs with and had a similar kind of ethos to what we do, sort of like a power pop thing with a lot of Brit influences and stuff. He just slotted in like seamlessly, and he's been with us for 3 years now. But the guitar player and I have been together for, like a marriage, long time.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? That's pretty unusual these days too, isn't it? A lot of bands, they either split up or they change because they just have changed direction, or they just don't get on anymore. So that's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? You're a 4-piece band, aren't you?
Yes, we are. And, the running joke, I don't know if you saw it in some of our promo material, but the running joke is that we've actually had, and this is no lie, 18 different people have played bass in the band at some point.
Wow. Jeez. Because bass players are hard to get, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I would say that they're the hardest to get. And it's not like we've had blow-ups with them. It's just, like similar situations to our drummer. Just life took them in other directions, or, they very amiably kind of, went off and did other stuff. And we just kept the band going, and we just bring in different people. And Yeah, but so right now, my brother, my younger brother Adam, is actually manning the bottom end for us, which is pretty cool. He doesn't unfortunately live here; he lives
Yeah.
in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah,
But
that
the way
looks
when
like a
you're
beautiful
recording
city
these
too.
days, it's it's possible
Yeah.
to have somebody that lives in a different city.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it? So it's working out very well.
It is.
So
Yeah.
you do all the social media stuff? Because I look on social media and man, and you've got a good coverage of social media. You get played on lots and lots of radio stations. And is that all your work?
It is actually.
Yep.
Thank you. That's nice of you to say. And yeah, we've been really fortunate to get the kind of coverage on this album. A lot's changed since our last album came out, and especially the social media part of it.
Yep.
And it's not like it didn't exist when our last album came out, but we had like quite a few years between the fourth and fifth album.
Yep.
But the way that the social media communities, in particular, in our case, what they call the power pop community,
Yep.
it immediately embraced this album and the band, and people were coming out of the woodwork that we had no idea. Like I'd get these email requests to do these long interviews from people that were like, "Oh, I loved your band for years. I didn't know you guys were still together, and that I'd love to do an interview." And it's like, really? Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. Big surprise. Just and that's the power of social media too, is that you talk to one person and then that gets to the next and it goes to the next and it's been really amazing actually. I can't even sometimes I can't even believe just how worldwide it's become. And you're proof. I mean, you're based on literally the other side of the world
Yeah.
from where I am, and not only are we talking, which you could have done 20 years ago too, or 25 years ago, but you actually have different means to promote a Vancouver band at your fingertips. And so then we see that you're doing it, and
Yep.
we start up a dialogue, and the next thing you know, we're doing an interview here, and it's just been this little spider web that's been slowly, or snowball that's just been slowly getting bigger and bigger. And sometimes the other guys in the band, I'll usually send them like a weekly update as to what's gone on in that week. And sometimes, I'll get these emails saying, I keep expecting things to start slowing down, but they're still pretty good, aren't they? So it's a lot to do with the social media and in particular the power pop community.
Yeah, you do a fantastic job. Like you're one of the bands that is most active on social media, and I assume you work full time as well.
Well, that's interesting. I work part time,
Yep.
but I'm also just literally finishing another degree.
Wow.
I had a degree from years ago, and then decided
Yep.
to do a second career, and went back to school. And I'm literally doing like a practicum right now. So the timing has been really interesting because our album came out right when I was in the thick of my last year of schooling, but I also was doing part-time work, and I've got a family, and so lots of things going on all at the same time. But again, it's with social media. If you have just a little bit of time at the beginning of your day
Yep.
and a little bit of time at night, you maximize it by really putting your focus into trying to expand that web instead of just going, oh well, I contacted 25 people, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like so that's just really the way it's been. And I guess it's so un-Canadian to ever tout your own horn, but I think what's been really nice is that people have actually reacted to this album in a way that even surprised us a little bit. So that they want to keep playing it.
Yep.
So who am I to say no?
Yeah, and it is an absolute awesome album, and it's it's not just power pop. There's some really rocking tunes on there, and you've also got a few quieter tracks on there too. And there's no fillers on it. Every single track on that album is just brilliant.
Oh, you're so kind. Thanks, Isaac.
Yeah.
Hey, when you come to Vancouver, I'm buying you a beer or a coffee or something. But for saying all that on the air, I gotta treat you to something.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. I've just given up alcohol. I have given up alcohol for about 6 months now. So.
Okay, coffee it is. Happy to take you to a really good coffee shop.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good, man. No, I love the album, and it's sort of a genre that I think that most people would love too. It's it's a genre that people would love. And where did the British sort of influence come from?
So the music that I grew up on, the first music that I ever remember really liking and hearing as a real young kid was like the Beatles and the Monkees stuff.
Yep.
So it was real pop oriented, but there was a real British slant to it, and
Yep.
and not long after that, the Who and groups like that. So that was kind of the first stuff I was weaned on. And
Yep.
then you also mentioned that there's a little bit of a harder rock thing going on too. So the next sort of step after that was I discovered, of all people, the Alice Cooper group.
Yep.
And I became a big fan of that stuff. And that kind of led me into the Led Zeppelin and the Aerosmith kind of stuff that was, that was a little heavier.
Yep.
But then when I hit sort of my mid to late teens, I discovered the Jam, and
Yeah,
I
they're
was
a cool
right at
band,
that,
aren't
right in that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
they? Yeah, they're a cool band, aren't they? I like the Jam.
Love
Yeah.
the Jam, and
Yeah.
so the very first band I was in that actually would get a lot of gigs and paying gigs too. God forbid we should ever get paid for them.
Yeah.
And actually started to develop a following was when I lived in a city called Edmonton, which isn't too far from Vancouver, but another
Okay.
province.
Yep.
And my brother that I mentioned earlier, and I and a third fellow were a three-piece, and we kind of modeled ourselves after the Jam.
Yeah. Cool.
And that was really the stuff that just it had enough of that British stuff that I grew up on when I was younger, but enough of that kind of rocky edge to it that the sort of post-punk stuff had, that also kind of appealed to me because it was a little heavier than the jangly stuff too. So they kind of, plus I've always been a huge fan of really good lyric writing, and Paul Weller is an excellent lyric writer. So they kind of, and they were high energy too, which is kind of what we do. And they kind of had every element that I really appealed to me at that. They were magical for me at that point. So that's really where the Brit stuff came from. And then the other part of our sound people will often mention to me is that some of our guitar stuff also is a little more rockin' than what people think of as power pop.
Yeah, for sure.
And so our guitar player, Steve, the one that I've been with for, decades, literally, he's the real guitar player. My guitar playing is, how would I describe it? If I had to pick a movie to describe my guitar playing, it would be Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah, right.
It's just really thrashy and chordal, and I don't try to ever do anything too fancy. But
Yeah.
where I'm lacking as a guitarist, Steve is not. He's been a really really good guitar player for since I first met him, and so he grew up in a really small town. Here, not in Vancouver. He grew up in a small town sort of on the border between British Columbia, where we are, and Alberta, where I grew up. And he didn't have access to bands like the Jam and the Clash and the Sex Pistols
Wow.
and even the new wave stuff. It was like small town AM radio. So
Wow.
he grew up thinking the Eddie Van Halens and the Jimmy Pages, like that was guitar playing to him.
Yeah.
And then when he moved to the big city, a lot of this other stuff sort of entered into his playing. And probably some, affected somewhat by my influence after we met too. And so he kind of brings that really, all the good guitar stuff that you hear on any of our records is all Steve.
Wow.
I can't take any credit for it.
Yeah, that's
But
awesome.
the thing about that I really love about my relationship with him is that we're kind of like that yin yang jigsaw puzzle thing. Is the things that I don't do very well, he does really well. Like he's also a really great harmony singer, and I've never been a great harmony singer. But as a lead singer, I can pull it off.
Yep.
And I've got good rhythm as a rhythm player, and I also write lyrics, which he doesn't really do. So the things that he isn't as strong at, I'm pretty strong at, and the stuff that I'm not very good at, he's pretty good at. So we have this really, that yin yang kind of thing that's just really worked for us. And I don't know, he's just also a really easygoing, likable guy, and so it's been a long but very fruitful and enjoyable relationship for sure.
That's fantastic. That's what I was going to ask, actually. Who writes most of your music? And it sounds like it's you. And do you have a slate?
Yeah, basically we have two ways that our songs come about. Either I just write them by myself and bring them
Yep.
to the band, or Steve and I will write music together, and then I'll generally write the lyrical stuff to those
Yep.
after. And that's kind of the two. I've written with some other people here and there.
Yep.
There's a really famous Canadian band here called the Grapes of Wrath. I don't know. Are you familiar with them?
No, not sure of them. No.
Oh, check them out. You'll love them. They're just a fabulous band. And their lead singer, guitar player, has also done some producing, and we ended up doing a couple of our albums with him. And he did some playing and singing on them, and he played on a track on this album as well. And, I wrote a song with him, and I wrote a couple songs with other people. But for the most part, it's just either I'm writing them or Steve and I are writing them together. And it, again, just seems to work, Like, our drummers never seem to have an issue with it. And it's just a good partnership.
So when do you get time to sleep? How many hours sleep do you get a night? Not many, by the sound of it.
2.5.
Is that really?
No, not really. No, but I do go to bed later and get up at a normal time. So I find that most nights I'm in bed by like 12:31.
Yeah, right.
And then I'm kind of up by 7:30.
Wow. No, not a lot of sleep really then.
No, but that's enough.
Some people can do that, can't they? I can't, but some people can.
No, you like to get your hours in?
I do. But when I can, as I'm getting older, it's just getting harder though. I just don't sleep as well as I used to. So, and I think it's just an age thing. I'm getting old, and every person I talk to in my age, they seem to have the same problem.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Old age is not. It's not good. It's not something to look forward to, really. But only good thing about it is I don't have to work.
You don't sound very old.
Yeah. I'm 61 and I'm retired, which is one good thing. I don't have to work because I absolutely hated work. So it's nice to.
You might. Oh no, go ahead. I won't ask you what you did for work. It's probably not.
I worked in the government actually for 30 years and. Absolutely hated it, but
But you got your pension and now you can do music for a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, I've been a radio. I did this while I was working too, so I've been doing this for about 16 years now. So nearly as long as you. So it's been a long time, and the 16 years has gone very, very quickly.
Yeah, doesn't it? That's true. Time just I can't believe that someone actually pointed out when this new record came out that it had actually been 15 years between our fourth and our fifth album, and I was like, really? Yeah,
Wow.
I guess it has.
And in the early days, you did a lot of touring, didn't you?
We did. We did a lot of recording and touring, and we went over to Europe, and we're quite busy at that time.
Yep.
And then we ended up just taking a little bit of a break. We did go over and play in Liverpool and at the Cavern Club, which to me was like a dream come true. There was a fellow, I don't know if you're familiar with this festival called the International Pop Overthrow Festival.
No, I don't know. Yeah.
So there's a fellow in Los Angeles who started this thing probably about 20 years ago now. And it's sort of like a traveling festival that he takes to clubs throughout the world.
Yeah.
He has it in Sweden as well. I'm thinking of places outside of North America and obviously Liverpool. But, a lot of it happens in North America.
Yeah.
And he somehow I know, that's right. Somehow he'd come across us and he invited us down to play at the festival in Los Angeles. This is probably going on like 16 years ago now.
Yeah.
And we decided, oh, sure, let's do it. We got gigs in San Francisco and Portland and Seattle and stuff. And we did a road trip and it was great fun. And after meeting him that first time, he then said, oh, I've only started doing this at the Cavern in Liverpool. Would you guys like to come over and do it? And I'm like, are you serious? The Cavern Club in Liverpool? Yeah. So we ended up booking a tour, and then we went back the next year and played again, and we went back the year after that. So we actually did get the chance to do some touring in Europe, which
that's excellent,
for a lot of Canadian kids, that's a bit of a pipe dream.
It would have been.
Yeah, and my brother, because we were a big surprise between bass players at the time, my brother actually came with us on the first tour. So it was Steve and myself and our longtime drummer and my brother, which, was like, for me, it was like the dream team. Not only like the best people that I'd ever known, but also guys that were like fabulous musicians. And so it was, real dream come true.
Sounds like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man.
Yeah, I would say probably the latter. I'm not so sure about the first ones because most of us had partners by then. But, but it was it was great fun.
No, that sounds
And
fantastic.
then about we kept doing some tours and gigs
Yep.
around here in North America, and then come around, I don't know, I want to say beginning of 2009, life just kind of, we just sort of, without any real plan, we all started doing other things that
Yep.
took us away from music. I had children. Steve became a marathon runner.
Wow.
Yeah, he actually ran in the Boston Marathon
Geez, that
about
would
5 or 6 years ago.
what an experience that would be.
Incredible, incredible. And our drummer opened a restaurant,
Yeah.
Ringo. We just call him Ringo. It's not his real name. It's a big surprise.
Yep.
And life just kind of happened for a few years. And we'd never said we'd broken up. I just kind of took a break from writing. The band took a break from rehearsing.
Yep.
We stayed friends and just, did our thing. And then one day at about, I don't know, in 2013, a fellow named Derek, who actually has played keyboards on a couple songs, played organ on a couple songs on this album. He had been in a band with our current drummer, in fact, Adrian, and he said, I'm putting this little Christmas gig together, and I know you guys are, haven't played for a little bit, but would you be interested in getting together and just doing a short set, just kind of a reunion thing? I think people would like it. And I was like, sure, why not? It'd be fun. No expectations.
Yep.
And we got together, we played like 3 or 4 songs, and we had just such an amazing time that we just started naturally playing gigs again. And I wasn't writing anything new. We just, I don't know, for about 4 years, all we did was just gig.
Yep.
And then in about 2017, some pretty heavy stuff came into my family life. And it, they say that as a songwriter, sometimes the dark stuff is what can, is the most cathartic to write about. So I started putting, pen to paper, or these days probably fingertips to keyboard is probably a better way to put it. But
Yep.
and took out the guitar and just started to write again. And the songs just kind of poured out, just, literally like one after another.
Wow.
And a lot of Game Day, the first 6 songs on the album were actually sort of a song cycle. And I think the original intention was that it was going to be kind of a concept album, not to scare people away, but that sort of quadrophenia kind of thing, because there really was this overarching story and emotion that was going on as I was writing them.
Yeah.
And but then when I kind of got to the 6th song, I kind of felt like I had written all about that, and I didn't really need to write more. It would have been sort of forced. So I decided not to force it. And we toyed with the idea of just doing it as an EP, like a 6-song release. But we had these other songs that we really liked as well. And so we recorded them. And then after listening back to them, like I produced it, and Adrian, our drummer, he engineered and mixed and mastered, because he's got that skill, which was actually really helpful during COVID. And we just would sit back and listen to them and go, these all hold together really nicely. And most people aren't going to really pay attention to the fact that some of them are part of this song cycle. So, we were comfortable that they worked as an album. And so the last part of the album are kind of, I guess I'd call them standalone songs. But the emotional core of the album was informed by some pretty dark stuff, which, again, people in the power pop community, have said to me, that's not sort of the usual thing you hear in a lot of power pop. You don't get stuff that's quite as dark or quite as heavy lyrically. I mean, I suppose The Jam might be a good example of someone that you would, but that's kind of where my leanings go, more towards the Townsend and Lennon and Weller kind of headspace when it comes to writing lyrics. I'm not so big on the boy girl stuff. So that's kind of how the album came about.
Well, you've done a wonderful job, and as you said, it's very well recorded, and I love listening to it. I listen to it quite regularly on Spotify. So,
oh, that's awesome. Thank you. And you've played a lot of it. I got to say something, actually.
I've got to play some more, don't I? You've got to keep reminding me to play. If you don't remind me, because I get so many people sending me music, I just I forget to play bands. So you've got to keep reminding me to play a track.
Okay, if you don't think I'm pestering you, I'll happily send you periodic reminders because I love when I get the posts that we've
Yeah, and tell me which track you want
your
played.
weekly top 10 or whatever. But I love that. It's great
Yeah,
to. There's something pretty special about knowing that you're getting played halfway around the world.
yeah. You just let me know
But
which track you want
okay,
played, and I'll play them.
okay. Well, when we're off air, I'll send you a message as to the
Yeah,
next one that we're working on because we're actually in the middle of finishing a new video. So I
cool.
will, I will. But I got to say, because if I forgot to say this on our interview, I'd be mad at myself. You were the very first person to actually put something out on social media promoting our album.
Wow,
The
that's pretty
very first
amazing,
one.
isn't it?
The day that our single came out, that was the single leading up to the album, the single Rip It Off, the
Yeah,
very first day, you put it in your daily top 10. And I remember when I saw it online, I had to do a double take because remember, it had been a few years since we released an album.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was before the barrage of getting all these other people starting to contact me and stuff. It was just kind of like we thought we were throwing it out into the ether, and we liked the song a lot, and we thought it was a good song.
yeah.
But that day when it came out, and the next thing I know, I saw Radio Banks Australia daily top 10, and there was Rip It Off by Star Collector. I was just like, holy crap, that guy's in Australia.
and,
So
and it pays off being in Australia, because Americans and Canadians, they just love us Australians, and they love being
they
played in
do.
Australia.
Yes, we do.
So
Kind of like people in other parts of the world love Canadians. Like both our countries are, kind of have that lovable mystique or something about us. I don't know what it is.
yeah, yeah. Because I remember I was in LA and I was at Disneyland, and this couple behind us ended up talking to us, and I said to him, "You must be from Canada." And they said, "No, how did you know that?" And I said, "Well, you're really friendly."
That's our reputation. I mean, I guess there is some truth to it. The cliches are cliches for a reason, and I do think that there is a fair bit of truth to it. I mean, obviously, like anywhere else, there's lots of exceptions to the rule, but I think in general, Canadians are pretty friendly folks, and I found the exact same with Aussies too.
Yeah,
There's
we're
a
down
big
to earth. We say it how it is. We like to drink, and
yes,
we like to party,
yes,
and we don't need to have the big houses. We don't need to have the big cars, and
yep,
we're just really down to earth people, and just like to party, and
100%.
we don't care
So
too much about things.
yes. So, you said you were here, and, not far from us is a very, quite a well-known, I want to call it a city. I guess it's a city, more of a town called Whistler. It's very
Yeah, well, I
famous
went to
for
Whistler.
skiing.
Yeah, we went to Whistler for lunch actually.
Right. And the Olympics were there one year. So it's world renowned, and it's a famous place that people come all over the world to ski and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
we went there in
And,
summer, but it was still good to go there just in summer.
oh, it is. We go up there just for day trips
Yeah,
and stuff too. But the reason I thought of Whistler is because it's packed. It is party central too. It's like the kind of place that people that want to just get a job for a summer or for a few months and just literally party all the time. They go to Whistler, and big surprise, it is packed with Aussies and New Zealanders. People that work there and live there for these short periods of time. Incredible.
yeah. Probably not at the moment. I wouldn't think, but yeah, that
Maybe not. I don't know,
it was a
but
COVID
yeah,
thing. But
that's
yeah, no, when we were there, we were to Whistler. There was a lot of Australians working there,
absolutely.
and they love
So
Canada. It's a beautiful place. I have to go if this COVID thing ever does, I want to go to Toronto too because I have a lot of band friends in Toronto, so I'd like to get there, and I'd like to get to Montreal as well. So I'll have to do that one day.
no, Canada's a big place, but when you say band friends, which Toronto musicians do you know?
Oh,
So
I've
if I
got
know them.
hundreds and hundreds of them, and I could send you a list. So, but I play lots of bands out of Toronto.
Okay, because I do know a number of musicians that are that live there and play there and work there. But anyway, I guess we can do that off air.
Yep.
But yeah, well, hey, if you ever come out, it'd be great. But it's it's a great place, and but I really wanted to make sure that I gave you a virtual bear hug for that because that really was it was the day that single came out, and I saw it and I went, holy crap, this is cool. And then it just sort of was the thing that started this little bit of a landslide that's led to the last few months of, pretty exciting times for us.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I'm talking to Vic. He's in a band called Star Collector. They're from Vancouver. They're a 4-piece band. They got a brand new album out. It's called Game Day. I know it's on Spotify, but where else have you got it available?
It's on all those streaming services, Amazon and Apple Music, but it's also on Bandcamp, which is...
I love Bandcamp. It's my favourite. Out of all of them, I use Bandcamp the most.
Yeah, so it's available on Bandcamp, and then we also have physical CDs that you can get. We have a couple distributors that are based in the US. Cool. One's called Cool Cat Music, which is K for cool, K for cat, and music that ends with a K. And the other one is called Jam Records, and they both distribute the CD version of it. So it's available in a lot of places, but most people will be able to just find it on their streaming services or Bandcamp.
So you must be pretty happy how the album's gone. You must be overwhelmed of how well it's done.
I'm thrilled about it. It just, as I mentioned, it was born out of a lot of chaos and hardship and darkness. So the fact that I was able to get it out and be able to, sort of I'll not say recreate, but the band morphed slightly because we have a new drummer on this album, and my brother came in at the sort of during recording to take back the bass and stuff. So the fact that I was able to surround myself with such wonderful musicians and people around these, pretty heavy songs, the whole experience was the creativity of it was already felt successful from a personal standpoint. If nobody ever heard it when the music was finished, I remember thinking, I'm proud of this. If no one hears it, then that's too bad. But I'm really thrilled with the way it turned out. So the icing on the cake is when people like you or these other folks that you referenced before, whether it's websites or radio stations or newspaper, whatever, when they start glomming onto it and start giving it these nice reviews or wanting to even play the songs, it gives the thing another whole life it's really hard to explain. It's been
you're getting played on a lot of radio stations, aren't you? Like every time I look at a post, you're getting played on another radio station, and I think, wow, good on you.
Yeah, well, thank you. It is pretty cool. I mean, it's not for I won't lie and say that we just sit back and it all happens. No. It does take a little bit of gumption on our part. Yeah. And I do make an effort to be in touch with people, but try to do it in the politest way possible. And sometimes I get really. The other day, somebody tagged us in a post saying that they were going to play us on their show out of London, and I had heard of the show, but I'd never made contact with them. Yep. And when he tagged me, I looked him up on Facebook, and I just sent him a little direct message saying, I'm thrilled that you're going to play us on your show. That's great. Thanks so much. I'm just curious, how did you find out about us? And he said, well, I do some writing for Shindig magazine, which is out of London. Yep. And he goes, and I'm also a subscriber. And he said, I sort of surf through and look for music that might be my taste. And he said, you guys got a 5-star review. I'm going to listen to you, and that's why I'm going to play you. So, those moments are just gold.
Yeah, they are. Like word of mouth, it's just amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible. And again, sort of that one thing feeds the other, right? So a good review got some more airplay, and then that airplay will then, dovetail or snowball into something else. And so it's given the thing quite, already quite a long life, and it still feels pretty new. There's still, a lot of people that are just starting to play it now. And so, I guess as a musician, you want to get your stuff heard. You don't record it just for yourself, but I think from a creative standpoint, I would have been just as proud of it if no one had heard it, because I really felt that the songs echoed my feelings about what I wanted to write about, but also that the band just was, on point the whole time, and there was a super, real enthusiasm going on, and so I was really proud of it creatively. And then the rest of the stuff just sort of went, wow, this has been wonderful. So, we're just kind of riding the wave.
No, that's fantastic. So what do you want to achieve maybe in the next 12 months? What's the future for Star Collector in the next 12 months? What do you want to get done?
Well, I'd like to keep the album afloat as long as possible and keep
Yep.
finding new people to play it,
Yeah.
and that's But we also, I mentioned last night we had our first rehearsal, and the one thing about COVID that was good was I was able to do a bunch of writing. So I kind of written almost the rest of a new album.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I think I think I've got 8 finished songs and 2 that are kind
Jeez.
of half finished that I expect will probably get finished in the next few weeks. So, we're pretty much at a point now where once we can get back together. Last night I actually showed the guys a couple of the new songs for the first time, and so kind of onward and upward. No, no rest for the wicked and all that. But
Yep.
I'd like to be able to get some gigs in at some point. I don't know where. Vancouver's a bit of a tough place for live music
Is it? Yeah.
comparatively. Yeah, it is. It's I think like 20 years ago or so, when the real dance culture, Vancouver's very multicultural, and dance culture became quite big here, and live music started to take a bit of a back seat, and that trend has been slowly happening in this city, which is unfortunate because, as you mentioned, it's a beautiful city.
It is.
But there's other cities in Canada even that you could go as a rock and roll band and play, and it's not as easy in Vancouver. So that being as it was, even before COVID, I think 3 of the last 4 shows we did were in the States.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
You
'cause I
know,
suppose
we went down to
Seattle's not
Seattle
that
and
far
Portland or
away.
something.
Yeah. Seattle's only a fairly short drive away, isn't it? And they got a good
Yeah,
music scene there, don't they?
they do, and Portland does as well. And my brother's in Portland, so
Big punk
if we
scene in
decide to,
Portland. I play a lot of punk bands from Portland, so
oh,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, those are both very vibrant scenes in terms of live music, more so than Vancouver, which is no knock on the musicians that are toughing it out here, and it's just that there's just not as many clubs to play, and there's a lot of not pay to play, it's kind of promote yourself to, you know, to bring in whatever money you bring in, you get to keep, kind of thing. It's different than it used to be 15 years ago when, people actually offered you decent money to play shows. So it's a bit tough here in Vancouver, I'm not going to lie,
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
but we'll do what we have to do, and we'd love to be able to do some live playing again for sure in the next 12 months when things start to open up. And in the meantime, we're doing videos and working on the new stuff. Just started to do that, and
Yep.
still promoting game day, so it's keeping us busy.
No, it sounds good. Yeah, no, I think because I have played a few Vancouver bands in the past, and they've always said it's very, very hard to get Facebook likes, and it's very, very hard to get people interested in their music and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're right. It must be a bit of a tough scene there in Vancouver. It's such a beautiful place too. It's a pity. You'd think that the music scene would be pretty big there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it was once upon a time.
Yeah.
20 years ago. And certainly in the 90s, there was a really vibrant music scene, and
Yeah.
of course before that, because there was a big punk scene in the 80s before I got here and stuff. But yeah, it just, something over the last 20 years has really changed, so I don't want to be a downer about it. It's just the way it is, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you, like anything, you adapt, right? Kind of like dealing with COVID, we adapt. So
Yeah.
if it means that we have to go down and play in the States, or we have to go east and play in other provinces where they still do music, live music more, then that's what we'll do.
And that's always
so
enjoyable anyway, just to get away. It's always nice just to get away for a few days or something like that. It's, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And if you can book a little tour out of it, and so there, on that note, there's been a number of DJs and shows that have been playing us down in California and in the cities on the way down the West Coast, like Portland and like Eugene, Oregon, and like Seattle.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that we've probably made some more contacts, that if we decided to do that route instead of trying to play in our own hometown, like, do a tour down to Los Angeles and play all the cities along the coast, and that we'd probably have some support there and people that are connected in those cities that might be able to actually, help us out a little bit. So
And
always
it'd be a
trying to
lot of
keep
fun
that.
as well.
Sorry?
And it'd be a lot of fun as well. You'd have a great time.
For sure. That is the drive of a lifetime.
Yeah.
For sure. Last time we did it was a while ago, but it was just incredible.
Yeah, I'd like to do that drive, but you drive on the wrong side of the road, so Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you got to be careful with that. That reminds me, the very first time that we went to Europe, um, we didn't obviously have like a driver or anything. So, we had the rented vehicle and we got
Yep.
off the airplane. It was like 2:30 in the morning. And suddenly I was one of only two of us that actually was licensed to drive. So I
Wow.
got behind the wheel on what for us is the wrong side of the road and
Yeah.
the wrong side of the car where the wheel is to boot,
Yep.
and had to learn to drive on, and try to find the hotel. And this is also like 17, 18 years ago before we all had Google Maps. So it was, oh my goodness, that would be one of the more stressful, and I'm not a naturally stressed out guy, but that would definitely have ranked up there with one of the more stressful moments in my life. But I got us there to the hotel. We found it and,
And you're
got our
still
three
here
hours
today
of
to talk
sleep.
about it, so that's always a good thing, isn't it?
That's right. Got our 3 or 4 hours of sleep and then got up and headed out to the first gig in, I don't remember, Brixton, I think.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to do a radio show, mate, you've got a fantastic radio voice, so maybe you should think about doing a radio show, but I suppose you just don't have time. You're working, you're studying, you're doing band stuff. I don't know how you find the time to do everything you do. You must be very well organised.
Well, if you could see the room that I'm sitting in, you might beg to differ. But
Yeah.
I try to. I think I try to compartmentalize is probably the way that I don't know if it's actually organized. I suppose it is to a degree, but it's really more compartmentalizing things. So it's like, okay, I have to do this thing to finish my degree. That's the time I'm going to set aside for that. I have to do some work for my part-time job. I'm going to set some time aside for that. And once those things are done, I'm going to make sure I fill in those gaps with the music stuff. And, I think if you're efficient, which is really when it comes to the band stuff, because,
Yep.
I have to find those gaps of time. I have to be efficient during that time. I just make a real effort to do that. And, yeah, I've also met, aside from the wonderful, show hosts and DJs like yourself, like I've been now connected with so many cool musicians
Wow, that's awesome, and that's a
from
good.
all over. Oh, and it's opened up more new music for me. Like, I'm a musician and I'm a songwriter and all that stuff, but I'm also a huge fan of music and always have been. And a lot of musicians think it's not cool to be a fan. You got to be the guy that's, the Liam Gallagher that's sort of above everybody else.
Yeah.
And I love Oasis, so don't get me wrong. But you know what I'm saying. And if I love music, if someone else's music, then I tell them so, and I get right in there and I buy it and I play it and I promote it to my friends. And this experience of being part of this community that I mentioned earlier has just been incredible, because a lot of the same people that maybe released an album over the last few months, in the same time as us, I've discovered it, and so I'm happy to promote them. I did an interview last week, and one of the questions the fellow asked me to do was to bring some songs in by new artists that I admired. So I'm getting a chance in my own interview to actually promote these other guys. And so it's a real communal kind of feeling about the whole thing, but it sure has been fun.
And that's right. And as I said, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I find the bands that do well are the ones that follow other bands and not just selfish and worry about themselves. And you certainly got the right attitude. You're doing all the right things. You're doing a fantastic job. As I said, you've got such a good Facebook presence, social media presence, and you're writing the music, and your music is absolutely fantastic. And I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I take my hat off to you.
Oh well, I'm not a natural blusher, but I'm blushing right now. That's so nice of you, Isaac. I'm flattered for everything you just said. I don't really know how to respond to it, but I do appreciate it. It's humbling.
It's been really nice talking to you today, because I actually haven't done an interview for probably 6 months now, because I've had some mental health issues, but. It's just so nice to get back into it, and it's really made me want to do a lot more interviews again.
Yeah, is everything doing okay for you these days?
Yeah. I've just had terrible anxiety for probably the last 6 months, and a bit of depression, and but just the anxiety side of things was really bad, but they finally got me on a medication that actually works, and it slows me down a little bit, but it's working. So while it's working, it's always good. And I think
Oh,
I think
I'm really happy to hear that. I'm really glad that it's working, and I have some knowledge of that. We talked earlier about me doing a
yeah,
degree. The degree that I'm doing it in is social work.
yeah, wow, yeah, that's
So mental health and that sort of stuff is not at all far from the stuff that I study and started working in. So my hat's off to you for
yeah. I think
being
the
able
hardest
to.
thing about it is people my age. I'm 61, and you talk to people anyone around my age or a little bit older, and they just don't believe that you have. They don't believe in anxiety. They don't believe in depression, and they think you're making it up. And
Mm,
the advice they usually give me is, kick yourself up the arse, get on with it, harden up.
yes. Yeah.
And if you never, and to be honest, I think nearly everybody once in their life suffers from a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of depression, and I think it's going to happen to everybody eventually. Maybe not for a long period, but yeah. So, but no, feeling good, and this interview's made me feel even better, and it's given me the confidence to do some more.
Oh man, well that as much as anything that's been said today makes me feel fantastic that that you actually are coming away with it feeling that way. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I got a huge smile on my face. I know you can't hear it because it's radio, but
yeah, I used to do
that's
them all the time. I used to do 3 or 4 a week, and then the anxiety got in the way, and then
mm,
yeah, and then I thought, oh, well, mate, let's give it a go again. And this is the first one I've done in a long time. So, and it's been wonderful talking to you. You sound like a lovely guy, and
as do you.
as I said, you're doing all the right things. I have been talking to Star Collector. They are a band out of Vancouver. They're a 4-piece band. You can check their new album out. It's called Game Day. It's available on all platforms. So check them out because they're a good band. And I'll also put a link up anyway to this interview and put where all your music is. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Vic. And best luck in the future. And I know we'll be keeping in touch. And I know I'll be hearing a lot more from you. And I know that you'll be writing a lot more music. And I'll be having the pleasure to be able to play it.
Well, and it's our pleasure that you're playing it, and thanks so much for doing this. And my offer to get coffee when you come to Vancouver is a standing offer. So I hope you take me
Cool.
up on it if you ever do come here.
Yep, no, that sounds like a fantastic thing, and I'd love to get back to Vancouver one day. And as I said, it's my second favourite city in the world, so it's a place.
What's your favorite?
New York.
Oh, right. That's right. You said New York.
Yeah,
That's
New
right.
York is definitely my favourite, but I think Vancouver is my second favourite. So it's just a beautiful city. It's just a city that you could not like, really. You're not like. It's just a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful looking city.
I can't argue with you. Like I said, I wasn't from here originally, but I've lived here now for quite some time, and yeah, I have no desire to move.
No, that's right. You haven't got that stronger Canadian accent, really, either.
Oh, well, I guess that depends. What I mean, maybe if the what is maybe the Canadian accent that people think of as sort of East Coast, maybe a little more kind of with that slight bit of Irish tinge to it, or
Yeah.
maybe is that the one that you're kind of referring to?
Oh, I don't know. It just doesn't sound that strong, but I can always tell a Canadian when they say about, and when they say about, and they say house, and instead of yes, they say yeah.
Well, then if that's the case, you're right. I don't have a very strong accent because I mean, I don't think that when I say about, does that sound like you're expecting, or is it about? Because that's what it
Yeah, they
normally
usually say
sounds.
a boot and who's
Yeah, well, I don't say that. That's
and
that's
yeah.
that's one of those wives' tales that people tell about Canadians, like we live in igloos and all that business.
Oh, okay, yep,
I suppose if you were out on the East Coast, maybe like Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, maybe
yeah,
that's a little more realistic. But out
yeah.
west here, nah.
I hope you're not a Blue
No.
Jays fan.
Actually, I'm not much of a baseball fan. I'm a
All
really big
right.
hockey fan, and I'm
Yep, yep,
a big footy fan, and I like basketball.
yep.
But I really don't follow baseball too much. I find it's kind of, I don't know, just it's a little too slow and
Oh, I love it. I love
slow.
it. I'm a Yankees fan, and the Blue Jays are in the same table sort of thing, same league. So yeah. So I always hate the other teams that are in that table.
That's interesting that you watch American baseball. Is that, like, I mean, I guess again, now here's me stereotyping, but I always assume that like that football and rugby and cricket are kind of like the big sports over in Australia. But am I wrong?
Yeah, they're the big ones. But I got three boys, and all my three boys played baseball, and I
Oh,
was a
okay.
president of a local baseball club here for 10 years. So baseball, it's sort of like a country league, you'd call it here, but
Hmm.
it's reasonably popular, and we got our own team. We got a team called the Bush Rangers, and we have Americans come over and play in it. So it's not too bad a league.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Well, there you go. So, in the learn something every day category,
Yeah,
I,
that's
I
it.
just
That's
did.
We live to learn, don't we, mate? We live to learn.
We sure do.
All right, Vic, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Best of luck with Star Collector in the future, and I'm sure you don't need any luck. The way you're
Take
doing
all I can
things,
get.
I think you're going to do very well, and I think you're going to enjoy what you're doing, and it's great. No, keep it up, keep it up, keep up the good work, mate.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I'm sure we'll talk more offline in
Yep.
the next little bit too. So I really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.
All right, Vic. Thank you very much, mate, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch quite a bit.
Okay.
All
Take
right,
care.
mate.
Have a great day.
Yeah, been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks, mate.
You too.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.